Hi guys, and welcome back to another true crime and makeup time video. If you're new here, my name is Zara and I post a new true crime video every single week. So if you love these videos, you love makeup, you love true crime, go ahead and leave me a comment down below with some case suggestions or some requests, and yeah, make sure to subscribe too, duh. And okay, today's case, guys, I don't want to say I love this case because I mean it's a horrible case, but when I read about it a few years ago, like I was so hooked on it and I was so like I followed the trial and everything. So it's a really, really interesting case. I could not believe the circumstances surrounding this case, and not to sound disrespectful, but it was literally like a soap opera like coming to life, like for real. So you guys need to grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's get into this case. Story about a friendship that went horribly wrong. And also this story takes place in Australia and then Indonesia, so we move between the two. So Wayan Mirna Salihin was born on 30th March 1988 together with her twin sister named Sandy in Jakarta, Indonesia, and they were the daughters of a businessman named Eddie Salihin. Mirna and her sister Sandy, they had a really happy childhood. They were part of Indonesia's like elite crowd, and this crowd forms less than 20% of Indonesia's like wealthy population. The majority of the population have very low income and they survive on less than a few dollars a day. And in countries like Indonesia, it's common for the wealthy families to send their children abroad to study. So after graduating in 2007, her name is Wayan Mirna, but she's known as Mirna. Mirna decided that she had like a talent for design. So together with her parents' help, she moved or went to Sydney, Australia to attend the Billy Blue College of Design in Sydney, and she was around 1920 when she did so. Mirna actually had a boyfriend at the time. His name was Arief Somarko, and he also was from a wealthy family, and he joined her in Australia. However, he ended up going to Melbourne because the school he was attending was over there and she went to Sydney. So even though they were in the same, country, and Sydney and Melbourne aren't that far from each other, like you can do a quick visit. Mirna was alone majority of the time. So she was actively looking to make friends and wanted to, just have a good time while she was studying. Mirna was super friendly and she quickly became friends with other girls from Indonesia who were at the same college as her. And Jessica Kumala Wongso became one of those friends. Well, she actually became one of her best friends. And then they also made friends with two other girls, Hani and Vera. Jessica, like Mirna, was born in Jakarta, Indonesia in 1998 as well. They were the same age. And she was also born into a very wealthy family. She was the youngest of three children of Emilda and Wernardi Wongso. And Jessica, she was a little bit different to Mirna. She was known to be reserved, like a quiet child, but she was known to be a very spoiled child. Her family was wealthy because they dealt with and had a company that dealt with imported plastics, and it was actually the largest distributor of plastic in Australia. Can you imagine how rich they were then? Some people even call her dad the plastic king. In a country like Indonesia, where a majority of the people, live in poverty, Jessica was one of the lucky ones. She grew up with and had everything she could ever need and more. In 2005, Jessica's parents and family moved to Sydney, Australia, because most of their business colleagues were there. I mean, if they're the largest distributor of plastic in Australia, that's where the money was, right? They bought a home in a really rich, one of the richest areas in Sydney. And if you guys know anything about Australian real estate, shit is really expensive here, like hella expensive. We don't have like huge, like lots of land compared to like America and stuff like that, but it can cost millions for like one tiny lot, especially in wealthy areas in Sydney and Melbourne. Like, I don't know how other countries measure land, but over here we do square meters. So for like a 550, 600 square meter land, which isn't that huge, especially in Melbourne, it can be like 1.5 million in certain areas. It's ridiculous for old ass houses too, not new houses, like old ass houses. So obviously Jessica's daddy was rich, honey. He bought 2 lots of land right next to each other so he could like build just a mega mansion. But at the time Jessica's family moved to Sydney, she actually did not move with them because she was finishing up her education back in Jakarta. So she was still a teenager, and obviously her parents had staff, you know, that could look after her back home. Jessica's family members say that Jessica loved computer games and loved drawing, and it was this combination of interests that's led her to study graphic design. So when she finished high school in 2008 in Jakarta, she moves to Sydney to join the rest of her family in Sydney, and then joins the same college as Myrna, Billy Blue College of Design. And although Jessica had older siblings that lived in Sydney too, she had a brother and a sister, she hardly ever saw them. She settled into her student life in Billy Blue College, and she made many friends. Her college friends found Jessica to be super goofy, bubbly, and they said she was really, really fun to hang out with. The 4 girls, Jessica, Myrna, Hani, and Vera, always hung out together. They always spent time together. And Jessica and Myrna especially shared a lot in common because they both came from these wealthy families, similar backgrounds, and they just got each other. They just understood each other. And on top of that, both Jessica and Myrna were both very confident, strong girls. All 4 of them would go to school together, attend lectures together, complete assignments together. Like, they would do everything together. And then on top of that, their social life would intertwine because they would now hang out after school together and party together and drink together. They were just always hanging out. Now, I said before that even though Jessica had siblings, she wasn't close to them, but Myrna was extremely close with her twin sister Sandy and extremely close with her family too. Myrna came from an extremely loving, close, supportive family, and that may not have been the same for Jessica. By the end of her, study in college, Jessica ended up obtaining citizenship in Australia. So she decided to continue living and working in the country, whereas Myrna and the other girls, they decided to return to their home countries and continue their lives over there. Myrna's relationship with her boyfriend Arif had lasted this whole time, even through somewhat long distance relationship. And her plan was to go back to Jakarta with Arif, and then they could start their lives together. At this point, they had been together for nearly a decade. So they wanted to, go back, start their lives together as a married couple and just begin their journey together. When Myrna returned to Jakarta, she didn't start looking for a job right away. She instead decided to live it up as a socialite and just enjoy sort of the party scene and enjoy her youth. So in June 2015, a year or so after they left Australia, Myrna goes back to Sydney for just a little vacation, and she probably liked Australia and she's like, let me just go back and have a little vacay, When you got the money, you can do anything. She mainly wanted to catch up with her uni friends from Sydney and then just have a little vacation, a little break, from being a socialite. So knowing Jessica is, still in Sydney, she obviously contacted Jessica and was like, hey, let's catch up and, just hang out. During the time that they were separated when she was in Sydney and Myrna went back to Jakarta, they kept in contact with each other mainly through text messages. And although Myrna didn't feel that the relationship was the same as it was, obviously, when she was in Sydney, Myrna still wanted to catch up and just say hi to Jessica. She was in Sydney, so why not hang out? So they made plans to go to lunch at a restaurant. And it was during this lunch, as they were catching up, in the last several months about what was going on in their lives and, how they've been. Jessica, she comments about this new boyfriend that she had. His name was Patrick O'Connor. He was an Australian. And she was just talking about the problems in their relationship. Myrna, being her friend, gave her some advice that was not really well received by Jessica. Myrna comments that maybe Jessica's boyfriend Patrick was not treating Jessica the way that Jessica deserved to be treated, and possibly the relationship just wasn't good for her. Myrna tells Jessica, like, look, maybe you should break up with Patrick. Myrna thought that Jessica was wasting her time, her life, and that she could do way better than Patrick. Myrna also knew that Jessica's boyfriend was into drugs, and she felt that wasn't a good association for Jessica, for her to be around this type of dude. And it seems like Myrna, you know, like I said, she was confident, strong, but she was also known possibly to be quite an opinionated person who would speak her mind, and especially to her friends. You know, you want friends like that in your life who are going to tell you the truth. I mean, at least I do. My hair is like so annoying, and now these clips look like ears, guys, but let's roll with it. So as Myrna was giving her opinion about Jessica's relationship to Jessica, Jessica just stays quiet. She didn't respond to anything Jessica said. Instead, she becomes furious and then just gets up from the table and storms off. She doesn't even pay the bill. So Myrna's like, shit. So she pays for everything and she's like, dang, I must have really crossed the line. And then from that moment on, they stop speaking to each other. Like, Jessica doesn't speak to Myrna. Myrna doesn't contact Jessica because she's like, dang, like, what did I say? So after this dinner, Myrna, she's obviously like feeling so weird about her relationship with Jessica. The way that it sort of ended, the way that she left, it was just super awkward, and she just didn't know what to do about it. And it was also not what she expected from the friendship, because maybe during their time when they were in uni, they would tell each other the truth, and Jessica perhaps knew what Myrna was like. So Myrna probably was like, why was it so unexpected for me to give my opinion? But it also had been months since they were close. So at the time, Myrna and Ariev had become engaged, and she tells Ariev, like, okay, look, I don't want to have anything to do with Jessica again, because so orcs. She was just super uncomfortable around Jessica now, and she said that if we ever had to meet again, you know, maybe I'll just take someone with me so that it's not so awkward. Either Ariev could come and, you know, meet them, or their other friends, Hani or Vera. She just didn't want to be alone with Jessica again. But for the most part, you know, Myrna was going to go back to Jakarta and Jessica lived in Sydney. So what kind of contact would they really have with each other? Really? So Jessica didn't really have to, Myrna didn't really have to worry about sort of running into her. In November 2015, just around 3 months after her last encounter with Jessica, Myrna marries her longtime love, Ariev, in a beautiful wedding in Bali. It was beautiful, and Myrna is just beautiful. And of course, there was like no expenses spared. So obviously after their encounter and the fact that Myrna just didn't feel comfortable around Jessica, she didn't invite Jessica to the wedding. And when Ariev asked her about it, Myrna simply just brushed it off and said, I just don't feel comfortable inviting her, you know? And Myrna also just didn't want to have someone there that could potentially ruin, you know, the most important day of Myrna's life. She did, however, invite Hani and Vera, you know, the other two girls, and she actually made these friends through Jessica technically, because they had all sort of become friends that way, which, I mean, I'm not saying was the wrong decision, but definitely could have started drama, you know, when you invite one friend and you don't invite the other. Like, I know I always have to be careful about who I invite and don't invite, because I just don't want drama. But then sometimes, you know what, you're going to have drama either way. So do what you got to do. Like, if she invited Jessica, what if Jessica was a bitch and then like did something, you know, like to ruin her wedding day? And then not inviting her, I'm sure, you know, if Jessica found out, would be hella pissed, especially after everything Jessica was going through. And you know, when you're on the social scene and you're like part of like wealthy families, to not be invited to another wealthy family's thing, like, drama. And you never want to compare friends, but that's just what happens sometimes, right? In life, like, you can't help but compare yourself to your friends and people around you. And, you know, in this respect, Myrna was beautiful, intelligent, had a doting husband who loved her, devoted to her for nearly a decade. Myrna was well liked by everyone. She was wealthy. She was social. Her life was just about perfect to some people. Then there was Jessica. Her life was not as perfect as perhaps she wanted people to see it as. She was living alone in her apartment in Sydney. And in 2015, a year after that argument Myrna and Jessica had about her boyfriend Patrick, her relationship with Patrick, it comes to an end. And with this, Jessica became very, very fragile, especially emotionally. And she actually attempted suicide multiple times. She attempted suicide 4 times and then had to be hospitalized 5 times after these failed suicide attempts and self-harm attempts. And she was actually held for quite some time in hospital to treat severe depression. And it was actually Patrick, her boyfriend, that called the police in January 2015 after Jessica threatened to harm herself with a knife. So after she becomes discharged from the hospital for these suicide attempts and depression, she becomes addicted to alcohol. And she was even involved in a traffic accident in August 2015 because she was driving drunk. And luckily she only suffered like a few broken ribs and abrasions on her body from this accident, because she crashed her car into a nursing home with her Audi A3 car, which is a very expensive car. And it was a bad accident because she lost control and her car actually became airborne. And when it flew, it hit this brick wall. And yeah, it could have been a really, really bad accident. Okay, guys, so my whole computer crashed. So anyway, what I was saying is that 2 weeks after this accident, police were called to Jessica's apartment once again. And they found her there with a bottle of whiskey and then like 3 suicide letters. And one of the letters stated that Patrick, her ex-boyfriend, was responsible for her death. And then the other 2 letters were for like family and friends explaining why she committed suicide and why she was ending her life. And it was in November 2015 that Patrick was then like, you know what, I'm done. And he sought a restraining order against Jessica because he claimed that Jessica vandalized his car, kept threatening his family and his friends. And now he was fearing for his safety and the safety of those around him. And at the same time, Jessica also lost her job as a graphic designer for the New South Wales ambulance because of her alcohol abuse and then her erratic behavior. Her employer was just like, you are not performing the way you're supposed to perform and you're not sort of doing your job the right way. So he couldn't keep her in the role anymore. So she lost her boyfriend. He files a restraining order against her. She loses her job. She has to go to court for that drunk driving accident. I mean, what is left for her in Sydney? It's probably not going so well. So now Jessica's feeling so frustrated, and she's like, especially feeling even more frustrated when she's looking at her friends' lives on social media. I mean, social media is a highlight reel. We all know this. But when you're down and out, like, you don't realize that. You don't really care about that. You're just like, it looks like they're doing better than me and that sucks. Like, my life sucks. Like, why the hell are they living this life and I'm not? Like, I've definitely felt that before. They all looked good. They were in their dream jobs, you know, living the best life. And she also sees that Myrna is now engaged to REF. Then in late 2015, she looks again and she sees that Myrna and REF actually got married. And this made her feel really shit because she was like, dang, not only was I not invited, but I was one of the only people out of these like friend groups that she knew of that wasn't invited. So months later, Jessica calls her family in Indonesia and says she's going to be returning back to Indonesia. And this would probably be a good thing for her because Australia was just not having the best memories for Jessica. So as soon as she arrives back in Jakarta, she shows interest in catching up with some of her old friends. And this included Myrna. So on December 5th, 2015, she sends her friends like a group message saying, hey guys, it's been a while. I'm coming back to Jakarta. Like, let's hang out like good old times. And Myrna, when she gets this text, she's obviously like, whoa, like I haven't spoken to you since this whole drama. And she actually took a few days to respond because she was possibly weighing out like, okay, do I respond? Do I not respond? Like, what do I do? So when Myrna does respond, Jessica insists that they go out for dinner. And then when Jessica returns to Jakarta, they actually do go out to dinner. But the dinner that they go to is just Jessica, Myrna, and REF, the husband. And nothing really happened at this dinner, nothing eventful. But what did happen was that at this dinner, Myrna and REF were newly married, right? So they were talking about their extravagant wedding, how beautiful it was, who was coming, you know, probably their new apartment, like what happened at the wedding, like all these kinds of things that obviously made Jessica feel like shit. And that's pretty crappy knowing that Jessica wasn't invited, but apparently that's what happened. So then after this, Jessica was like, okay, well, all 4 of us girls should catch up and hang out like old times and let's meet up again in the new year. So she uses the same group message that she did initially to invite Hani and Vera as well. And they decided to meet up on January 6th, 2016 at a cafe called Cafe Olivier in the Grand Indonesian Shopping Mall. So in this group chat, they were all talking about, meeting up at this cafe. And this cafe, Cafe Olivier, was actually quite a trendy place. And in the same group chat, Myrna comments about how she loves their Vietnamese iced coffee. So they agree to meet, all four of them, for this coffee date at 5 p.m. that day at Cafe Olivier. And Jessica arrives at the Grand Indonesia Mall at 3:32 p.m. that day. Now, even though the date was scheduled for the time was scheduled for 5 p.m., she arrives early, 3:32. She enters the cafe, walks around the hall. She even sits at a table, and then she looks around, and then she decides to leave. So now about 40 minutes later, 4:15 p.m., Jessica re-enters the cafe, and this time she's carrying 3 gift bags from Bath & Body Works. Once again, she walks around, she surveys the place, she makes some eye contact with some of the security cameras, and she appears to carefully choose a table, perhaps a table away from the cameras, further away, and she sits down. But even with more than 45 minutes until her friends are due to arrive, 5 p.m., Jessica goes and orders drinks for all of them. So what ended up happening was 4 of them were supposed to come, but then only 3 actually confirmed. So it was Jessica, Myrna, and Hani. So she chooses 2 cocktail drinks and 1 Vietnamese iced coffee, which would later be offered to Myrna. That was her favorite drink, as she mentioned before. So now there is CCTV footage of this. So I will try to find a good link below. But I mean, the freaking CCTV footage is so terrible. It's the 1800s, and that's what feels like you're looking at. Everything's so blurry, and I thought it's pretty technologically advanced, but I guess not. The footage is crap. I'm just letting you know. But anyway, you can see, so the drinks arrive to the table closer to 4:30 p.m. And when the drinks arrive, you see Jessica, she strategically places these gift bags around the drinks, blocking everything, and making sure no one can see these drinks, but they're in front of Jessica, but hiding behind the bags. So then she moves to the center of the table. It was a booth. So she moves to the center of the booth, where initially she was sitting on the right hand side. And this also prevents any further customers or even security cameras from seeing her, because the entrance to the booth is this way. And if she's sitting at the entrance, you can see her whole body. But if she moves to the center, the gift bags, everything is hiding her. Now, Jessica was super fidgety, and she seems to be playing with the drinks and playing with the bags quite a bit. And if you guys don't know what Vietnamese iced coffee is, it is delicious, but there is a particular way it's made. So first off, they use condensed milk instead of regular milk. It's not like a regular coffee. So condensed milk is added to the bottom of the glass, then they add ice. Then they put a specific Vietnamese coffee filter on top, add coffee onto it. And then the reason for this is the coffee will slowly drip onto the condensed milk and the ice, resulting in a stronger coffee flavor. It's pretty strong, but it's really delicious. So now this coffee and those 2 cocktail drinks, they are hidden behind the bags, but you can see clear movement of the drinks and of the bags from the security footage. Now, again, she would have no reason to tamper with the drinks, because first of all, you can claim that she was adding sugar or something like that to the coffee. But the first thing is those 2 drinks were cocktails, the first 2 drinks. And then the iced coffee already had condensed milk and, condensed milk in it, which is milk and sugar. So what are you adding into the drinks? There's nothing you could be doing. And second of all, who the hell adds stuff to their friends' drinks before they're even there? Why are you touching my drink, bitch? Don't touch my drink. So anyway, at 5:15 p.m., Myrna and Hani arrive to Cafe Olivier. Everything seems normal. The 3 of them hug each other. They sit down at the table. Myrna then sits in the middle, and then Jessica and Hani are sitting on either side of her. And then Jessica offers the girls their drinks. Myrna is offered the iced coffee. Myrna grabs the drink, takes a sip, and within seconds of that first sip, Myrna begins coughing. Myrna then complains to her friends this drink tastes super weird, guys. Can you try it? Hani goes to try it. She doesn't actually take a sip, but she grabs the straw, she pulls it out, and she licks the straw. Jessica declines. She doesn't take a single sip. The friends then call the waiter and start to complain to him like, you know, what's in this drink? What did you give us? And they tell the waiter that Myrna doesn't feel well and the iced coffee tastes different than usual. All this time, Myrna is like struggling. She's like coughing, shaking. And while the girls are trying to see what's wrong, Myrna seems super flustered. She starts waving her hands and like making gestures, like almost like airing her, like she's doing this. She's like airing her face. And she's almost saying like there's a weird smell or something like that. And less than a minute later, Myrna's head flops to the back and she collapses in her seat. She starts convulsing and frothing at the mouth. Staff and customers like rush to her aid while Jessica and Hani are watching. And some people are trying to help Myrna, but some are also suggesting that perhaps she's having an epileptic fit. And at this point, Jessica's behavior is different from the others. She seems to be more interested in putting the blame on the cafe and the waiters and what did you do to this drink than looking after her friend who's fainting and seizing in front of her. She kept saying, oh, someone must have put something in this drink. Someone must have done something. Seeing the scene, the owner of the establishment at the cafe, he walks up, he grabs the iced coffee and he takes it to the kitchen. The manager tells staff, do not throw what's left of Myrna's drink away, like keep it. And they sealed it. And during this whole time, Jessica was calm. She showed no emotion. She was just watching. So by this time, the ambulance arrives to take Myrna to the hospital. Hani was hysterical. She calls REF, you know, freaking out. She tells REF what happened, that Myrna was possibly having a seizure and that they were taking her to this hospital. So he rushes to the Abdi Walio hospital where Myrna was taken. The hospital was only about like 1 mile, 5 minutes away from the cafe, yet Myrna was admitted to the emergency room lifeless. Myrna passed away on the way to the hospital. It was only 2 months since REF and Myrna had gotten married, and he already lost her. She was pronounced dead at 6:30 p.m. that day, just 1 hour after her meeting with Jessica. Meanwhile, in the coffee shop, the owner was checking all the coffee machines and all the drinks, and he was listening to all his employees, and they stated that same afternoon there were 10 iced coffees sold, and not a single customer had complained about the taste or gotten sick from any of them. From this, the police were called in, and luckily they kept Myrna's coffee. And when the coffee was tested, traces of cyanide was found in it. And it was then noted by the police that Jessica was the first one who mentioned how there was something in the drink before anyone else even mentioned it. So a formal autopsy was not performed on the body due to religious reasons, and in the country such procedures are not usually accepted. However, the police urged Myrna's family to conduct one due to the nature of what had happened, and they did agree. However, it wasn't a normal autopsy. It was like a minor one, and you know, they didn't allow a full one because they didn't want her body to be damaged and, you know, cut open and things like that, which I understand. On January 10th, just 4 days after Myrna's death, a medical examiner stated that Myrna's intestines showed signs of corrosion, which is consistent with cyanide poisoning. And these traces directly corresponded to those traces found inside Myrna's coffee. Cyanide is a very, very, very powerful poison. It can kill a person in minutes in like really small doses, and it causes seizures and vomiting. So exactly what Myrna had. And I don't really know how or why regular people just have access to such a drug like so easily. I mean, I don't know if it's that easy, but it seems like it's kind of common. Jessica's behavior at the cafe was noted as being so strange and awkward for someone who seemingly had nothing to do with it, especially from the moment she began accusing the cafe of doing something to her friend's drink. Reviewing the security cameras, the police realized that indeed something wasn't right with Jessica. So sadly, Myrna's funeral took place not long after, and Jessica's behavior at Myrna's funeral also was very suspicious. It was an open casket, and as her Myrna's family was mourning, Jessica did not cry at all and almost in moments seemed to smile. She then had to leave the funeral because one of Myrna's family members accused Jessica of poisoning Myrna. So due to the extreme events of that day and how everything happened so quickly, Jessica was not searched on the day that the crime happened. Jessica had also thrown away the pants that she was wearing on that day, saying that she had damaged it while trying to help Myrna. However, in the security footage and the other like phone footages and stuff, there's like no moment where Jessica is helping Myrna. Investigators then questioned Jessica on 5 different interviews. They conducted 3 different crime scene reenactments before they ended up arresting her soon after on January 30th, 2016. Cyanide was never found in Jessica's possession. So for them to prove her to be guilty, they had to prove how she would get her hands on it. Now, cyanide is found in most chemical companies, but you have to prove a reason for its use, and it's usually a scientific reason. So they tried to see if Jessica had brought it from Australia with her to Indonesia, but that would have been too risky, especially with Australian and Indonesian like airport laws. So when Jessica's friends and co-workers were interviewed, they stated that Jessica would have been smart enough to obtain it another way. And they believed that she was resourceful enough to obtain it herself in Indonesia, and she was wealthy enough to obtain it herself. Her former boss in Australia also testified about Jessica's split personality that he believed that she had, and claims that she would actually, in his eyes, be capable of killing or harming somebody, since she had once told co-workers that if she wanted to kill somebody, she would know exactly how to do it. She could use a gun, or she would know the right dosage. Yeah. And to make matters worse, during a work discussion, Jessica allegedly told her boss that he deserved to die. So the Indonesian police worked together with the Australian authorities, and they were given information and free access to reports. However, the Australian police asked the Indonesian government that in the trial, if she was found guilty, that the death penalty would not be used. Several attempts to bring this case to trial actually failed before it actually took place in June of 2016, because the evidence was mostly circumstantial and prosecutors just did not have, to them, a strong enough motive for the crime for her to kill Myrna. You need a motive. But it did move forward with cameras everywhere. It was huge. And there were 46 witnesses, I think, in total that were brought during the trial. And the judge was 3 judges, because it was such a huge case. I'm telling you, it was like a full drama. Given that the families, were so rich, and Myrna was loved by so many, that it was just she was like the beautiful, victim, and Jessica was here like the evil villain who was jealous of her life. It was so intense. The Jakarta local paper stated that Jessica had killed Myrna in revenge for Myrna's suggestion that Jessica should leave her boyfriend Patrick. Myrna's father, Eddie, also stated that there was evidence showing that Jessica was sending Myrna sexually suggestive text messages, and that these messages were sent to Myrna before her death. Jessica denied these allegations, and Hani stated she knew nothing about this affair. However, on Myrna's phone, there were text messages found from Jessica expressing her desires to Myrna, for Myrna, intimate text messages, and that seemed unreciprocated by Myrna. One read, "Hey Mir, I want to kiss you. It's been a long time." So who knows? Maybe they had one drunken night where, you just hook up with your friend as a joke. Or not even as a joke, you don't sleep with them, but maybe they just kissed, and Jessica was like, is it something more, So then when this came out, the next motive was that Jessica was in love with Myrna, and when she found out that Myrna got, finally married to RAF, she sought revenge against Myrna. And the public acceptance of the LGBTQ plus identities in Indonesia is not very widely accepted. And the fact that Jessica could possibly be in love with a woman made her guilty, in the Indonesian public's eyes. So basically, put all this together, the friendship ending, Myrna not approving of Jessica's boyfriend, Myrna getting married when Jessica possibly had feelings for Myrna not inviting her to the wedding, cutting off ties with her, Myrna being perfect, living her best life, Jessica being jealous because her life was crumbling and falling apart, jealousy, essentially, and revenge, sort of. But Myrna didn't do anything to her, but jealousy was mainly the main motive. But the defense argued that this motive is weak, and the whole case was weak because it lacks evidence, and The defense said that it doesn't make sense for Jessica to fly to Indonesia from Australia just to kill Myrna, nor was, Myrna's supposed advice for Jessica to leave her boyfriend. Like, that's not enough of a motive for someone to kill someone. Jessica also denies that Myrna even knew Patrick's name, like her ex-boyfriend's name, and that she never even shared any intimate details about the relationship with Patrick to Myrna. The defense also questioned why Hani was fine after licking the cyanide-laced coffee straw, but Myrna wasn't. They raised the possibility of the barista at Cafe Olivier having spiked the drink with cyanide, especially because no witnesses or CCTV footage actually caught Jessica putting cyanide into the drink. Well, yeah, because the bags were like in the way. And there is no evidence of Jessica obtaining cyanide or having cyanide in her possession at all. The defense highlighted that the prosecution failed to state how she got the cyanide, when she got it, when she placed it in the coffee to allegedly kill her friend. The prosecution, however, argues that, well, cyanide's readily available on the black market and Jessica has more than enough resources to get this from someone somehow. The defense also brought forensic experts to the trial to prove that Myrna's death was not actually caused by the cyanide poisoning. Experts from Australia testified saying that there was no toxicological evidence for the ingesting of cyanide, and that while there was cyanide found in her stomach, the trace amounts were not enough to kill her. They also pointed out that no cyanide was found in her other organs, and that for them to actually conclusively determine whether she died of cyanide poisoning, a more extensive, thorough autopsy would need to be performed. And I mean, they knew this wasn't going to happen. The family wasn't going to allow that to happen. She was already bloody buried at this point. So what are they... they knew what they were trying to do. And then stating that, there wasn't enough cyanide in her stomach to kill her. I mean, different people can react to different doses. And what was left on her tongue, what was left in her throat, what did she spit up, what came out with the foaming and the frothing at the mouth? Like, we don't know. That wasn't tested, The psychologist who evaluated Jessica's frame of mind for committing the crime never even evaluated her directly. Instead, they evaluated the CCTV footage. But the prosecution painted this picture of a woman set out on revenge. And again, the findings were very subjective and they were obviously contested by the defense. When Jessica, she's like walking, and the media asks her, like, did you put cyanide in your friend's coffee? Her reaction was to laugh. And she actually continued this behavior throughout her whole trial. And Myrna's twin sister, Sandy, says that Jessica enjoyed and craved this attention. She was loving every moment of it. Hani also testified that when Myrna was pronounced dead at the hospital, she heard Jessica whisper to Myrna, "I'm sorry." Yeah. So in the court of law, Jessica may have had inconclusive evidence against her to convict her of this crime. But in the court of public opinion, and her behavior and her attitude, her demeanor during the crime, during the trial, that more so defined and played a part in the ultimate ruling. Through a public trial, through media leaks, through other sources, Jessica received her punishment. Yet, her guilt has never actually been confirmed through concrete evidence. The trial, which lasted 5 months, became like a national show. And on October 27th, 2016, Jessica Wongso was found guilty of murdering her friend Myrna Salihin through poisoning her coffee with cyanide. Jessica was sentenced to 20 years in prison. I mean, shouldn't she have received more? 20 years, she'll be out before she's 50, She's going to be out here poisoning all of us, I mean, this case is just so insane, isn't it? Like, we all believe she did it, but why? Why do we say she did it? Like, don't we rely on full, factual, concrete evidence? Well, because if all motives aside, she was the one that ordered the coffee way before it was practical to even order a drink for a friend if they're not arriving for 45 minutes, especially an iced coffee. The ice gonna melt. She acted strangely and suspiciously for over an hour, before even ordering the coffee. She walks around, she carefully reviews all the security footage, she picks a table, First of all, she probably went and bought 3, items from Bath and Body Works just so she can have the bags. Like, why not just put everything in one bag? Place them strategically around the drinks, you know, fidget behind the bags, like move to the middle. Like, she was just acting so sus. Then she was the only one who didn't try the drink. Like, now I'm not going to be trying anyone's drinks, but I mean, normally you'd be like, oh, what's wrong with your drink? Let me have a sip too. Together with her behavior while her friend is fighting for her life and her standing there just watching unconcerned, like, and then during the trial, laughing, smiling, like, it's insane how we find someone guilty without concrete evidence, but she did it, right? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts on this case below. It's definitely one of the ones I've been following for a long time, and I just find it so interesting. You know, friends ain't your friends sometime. Let me know your thoughts on this case down below, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's case, and I will see you in the next one. Besitos. Mwah. Bye.